Okay, Sandra, we're just loading up to be live on YouTube. Okay, we're live.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. At 2:03. Okay, everybody had a chance to look at the agenda. Thank you, Councillor Lemko. Motion to adopt the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Councillor Broadjack, thank you very much. Is there any errors or omissions within those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Okay, first delegation today is Tom, Armour Economic Development. Tom, are you ready to go?
You betcha.
Do it.
All right. In the last month, obviously, things have changed just a little bit in the world as a whole, Canada, Alberta, and Vegreville. So a number of the actions undertaken were in response to COVID-19. And the report that I've got here is actually separated into general activities and activities in response to COVID-19. So we've been working very closely with the Chamber of Commerce, especially in the last month and a half to 2 months. And I've done a number of initiatives with them to help support the local businesses and the local economy. So some of the things that we've done as far as working with them is we've worked with them to compile a list of the businesses, which ones are open, which are closed, the ones that are open, what parameters they're working under. So have they been working 10 to 5? Are they open full-time, part-time? If it's a restaurant, are they doing delivery or takeout? What the situation is with regards to their hours. So any stores that are open, if they are open, what their hours are. Also, if there's any restrictions on their types of businesses. So we've been working with the chamber on that. They've posted that on their Facebook account, and it's at the top of their, they pinned it to the top of their Facebook account. So that's as up to date a list as we can get. And it is, we certainly encourage all the businesses to update if there's any changes to that. We have contacted almost every business in Vegreville with regards to this. And of course, with the ongoing changes, literally daily, we're doing our best to keep that up to date. In conjunction with that, we are also promoting that through our website, with our communications coordinator. I've worked with him. And so we have put out some alerts on social media to say that the businesses, there are businesses still open in Vegreville and what conditions are under, and also encouraging them to go to the Facebook page with regards to the Chamber of Commerce. And so we're using our social media outlets to drive traffic to that site as well. In addition, we are working on a specific COVID-19 strategy with a group called Zag Creative, which many of you will have heard in the past. They've already come out with their strategy. We are responding to them today, as a matter of fact, and we're going to be using a marketing campaign to promote the businesses that are still open in Vegreville. The hashtag is actually open in Vegreville is the actual hashtag for it. We're also encouraging businesses to get involved and not only use that hashtag, but promote it on social media. So it's a combination of a shop local campaign, primarily directed at residents as well as local businesses within Vegreville and its trading area. But also we're looking at it as a support for existing businesses and trying to drive traffic and get them involved with supporting both local businesses and the fact that some are still open, some are about to open, and what the conditions are with regards to that. So that will be starting very, very shortly. I had a long meeting with our communications coordinator this morning with regards to that. And we're looking at some very positive movement on marketing the fact that there are still businesses open for business here and that people should be supporting local businesses as much as possible. In addition to that, we've worked with a number of different people and areas, including the Chamber of Commerce, but a lot of resources internally. Cliff sent me some things. Councillor Rudick has sent me some things, and we've compiled a list of resources for local businesses. So these resources include lists of things from the federal government, lists of support from the provincial government, links to both the Alberta Chamber of Commerce and the Canadian Chamber of Commerce, links to AUMA and FCM. And we've got a number of resources there these are pages that have lists of all the resources that each of these individuals either are doing themselves or are showing that other individuals are as well. So that we have on our own website on our COVID-19 page with regards to that, as well as the Chamber of Commerce is promoting that as well. Other things that we're doing, we are also working with the Chamber and Country 106.5 to as title sponsors for Takeout Wednesday, which was an initiative Canada-wide actually to encourage people to purchase takeout food on Wednesdays from restaurants that are up and still operating. So ours was Vegreville Eats. And we had a good response. If you noticed, a lot of several of the car dealerships had posted on their signage that it was Takeout Wednesday and Vegreville Eats. We changed our town sign on Highway 16A as well to reflect that. And there's been some support with regards to social media posts as well. But in addition, 106.5 was extremely helpful in that they were driving this, and for an extremely reasonable amount of money, they were promoting this heavily on their radio station, especially on the Wednesdays. Hopefully some of you heard some of the promotion and some of the advertisement that they did. So it's been a great support. We have talked to every single restaurant in Vegreville, and all but one of them said there was a significant increase in traffic on Wednesdays, it was noticeable, and the other one didn't see a drop. They just didn't see an increase. And there are some mitigating factors with regards to that, so I won't get into it. So there's that. We're also obviously working on revising and updating our website and the microsite for economic development, which is proceeding along very nicely. And we're hoping that that will be launching fairly shortly here, as well as we have gotten the go ahead to work on with MDB Insight, who, as I can remind everyone, are the group that we worked with that did our strategic diversification strategy, as well as the other three supplemental reports. and they are working on our community profile, which is going to tie in both with our website as well as any marketing that we're going to be doing. So we're very, they are going to tie in almost perfectly as far as timing is concerned. And we will have a four separate documents, one focusing on investment attraction to Vegreville, one focusing on the business startup and business support for existing businesses in Vegreville, a third one on the resident attraction to Vegreville, and the final one is going to be a compilation of all three of them in a overall community profile. That will be available once it's completed in both electronic form and print form, and will be tied in with our website. So everything there is working together to do that. We also, at our last, not our most recent, but our previous Economic Development Advisory Board meeting, we had a brainstorming session on what we can do not only now to support businesses, but once things reopen, what we can do. And there were a number of very good recommendations for those initiatives as well. So we've got a number of things on our plate that we're going to be moving into in addition. So in addition to that, it's been a number of other initiatives. We have had meetings and are continuing to have meetings with a couple of different groups that are interested in looking at Vegreville. Things haven't completely shut down, and we're looking forward to those meetings to see if we can hopefully attract some investment into the Vegreville and the area. Things are looking reasonably positive there. Hopefully we'll have something here in the next little while that we can discuss with regards to that. And those are kind of the key ones that we're doing right now. I certainly would be more than willing to answer any inquiries or questions that have come from that.
Okay, well, thank you, Bob. Anybody have any questions for economic development? Well, Councilor Rudy.
So I think maybe everybody doesn't have your report, but maybe it's helpful just to give a little bit more meat on the bone in terms of explaining what the ZAG proposal looks like. Open in Vegreville sort of fits nicely into that whole idea of our vision and goal as council to be innovative as well as welcoming and inclusive. So it sort of cuts across a few different boundaries. And I don't know how much we shared at the meeting with the group there, but the proposal with the group from ZAG was creative as well as very practical, and really struck the tone of being enthusiastic and encouraging to both existing businesses and encouraging new businesses. And it really linked the idea of sharing the energy and the enthusiasm that's going to be necessary for this next while, and making sure that we're building on things that are strong and encouraging that throughout the business community. So it really is, to my mind, I think sort of passing the torch from individuals to businesses to residents and making sure that we're all working together. I was really happy with what they had, and I'm expecting that we would see that this week, I think. So council can expect to start seeing some of those things in social media, and hopefully you're getting good response. And the idea there is that it will be taken on by the community and by us, and be able to share it amongst each other and continue the wave and just keep building on that. So just wanted to make sure, because I don't know that your report is not on our agenda. So just wanted to make sure that that was circled back on. And the other part too that I think is maybe worth capturing as we're waiting for the website to complete is the testimonials from different business owners that are going to be used on the website or the microsite, as well as some of our documents that we're going to use, both physical and online recommendations and referrals for the community, testimonials from some of the board members or business owners. And I think even just some of the things that board members said off the cuff were just really speaking to the idea that housing has been selling recently, and there's a really big opportunity there in the next little while that For example, a couple of our board members that have lived across Canada, Toronto, et cetera, that once we've lived here for a while, we kind of become immune to our assets. And it's important to make sure that we keep being enthusiastic about the things like being within an hour and a half of an international airport, maybe not as relevant at this time, but we're within an hour and a half of a large major city. And housing is extremely affordable, more affordable than it's ever been. And you compare that to all the other places that are going to be recreating their future. We've got a lot of things going for us here. So we're really actually sitting in some good spots in terms of being able to have a lot of positive community assets. So looking forward to the testimonials from that group, and hopefully that we'll be able to meet in the middle with council and businesses to be able to put that forward.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Riddick. So, Tom, where are we at with our signs for the wayfinding project here? Like I know that it was budgeted, and like, where are we at? Or have we picked a design of the signs? No? Oh, sorry. Okay, well then, since me getting upset with you for not getting it done yet, I'll get upset with Phil. Okay. Anybody questions? Anybody else questions for economic development? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Tom. Now we'll move over to community services, and I'll ask you when you're done the same question, Phil, but you go ahead with your letter you have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start over again. I'll summarize a letter from Marvin and Margie Tomaszewski that was sent to yourself and Town Council on May 21st. They had sent a letter back in June of 2019 to Infrastructure Planning and Development Director Dale Lefebvre regarding planting trees on the boulevard on Maple Street behind their 55 plus. I had met with them in the fall of 2019. I was working with the Parks Department to see if it was suitable that we could plant trees there. We did eventually find out that we could plant trees. I had put together a plan that was presented to council on May 20th at the Ledge meeting. They had mailed this letter prior to that Ledge meeting, and I did speak with them the very next day. I contacted them and met with them. The letter, they are expressing some disappointment that nothing has been done, but I did explain to them that we had some logistical items that had to be dealt with before we could just go ahead and plant trees. So they are aware that the plan is now in place. We have the trees all staked out, proper distances. We do have approval from TELUS, and again, we're just waiting for approval from council on that, which was on the 20th. Right now, our only downfall is we're waiting for first call. They're very far behind due to COVID. Many residents in the community are waiting for first calls. So that's where we're at. It's all staked out. The plan is in place. They are going to donate a substantial amount towards trees. We do have some trees in stock. Parks would like to move, so they're going to be all green ash trees along there, and they'll be mature trees, so they'll be in the 6 to 8 foot height. So it'll already have a nice start, and it won't be disrupted by snow or anybody going along the boulevard. I know there has been issues with snowmobiles in the past, so that won't affect this because they'll be mature trees. So I have talked with them. They are happy with the decision, and like I say, we're just waiting for the first call. And once we get that, we'll start planting the trees.
So we got the ball rolling.
You did. The ball is in heavy motion. So
because they were appealing to mayor and council to get the ball rolling, so that's what we're doing.
Yeah, prior, because I did talk to them the next day, so.
Okay. Excellent. I don't know why first call is so backed up, but if that doesn't work, try second call.
I've actually spoke to 3 people in the community and they've been waiting a month for first call. Second call's been done, but first call, they're waiting over a month to build a deck, build fences, so.
Okay, thank you for that. So what's going on with the wayfinding?
I do have that in my director highlights. If
Okay,
you
then
would
we'll
like
wait
to.
till then.
Okay.
Want to steal your thunder, thanks. You got the ball rolling here, it's good.
I don't want to steal Mr. Casey's thunder right now. so.
Okay, so yeah, so Director Casey, you're up next with your reserve schedule.
So this is, there's going to be a request for council decision coming Monday to set up the reserves. There's been several changes to the reserves that were given to you guys last legislative meeting. And those are generally because when I did the original schedule, I was going to transfer them. I was doing my reallocation schedule that's attached to the request for council decision. I realized that, for instance, in the, which one is it here? Just give me a second. In the facilities life cycle reserve, I had originally put 450,000 in there, but we have actually already reserved 570,000 for that out of our total facilities. So I just changed it to 570,000. I had forgotten in the other document the amount of money that was set aside for the fire department, the $50,000 that council put aside for the fire department, plus 22,000 that the fire department had already raised. So I created that's in here now. And then same with the fleet. When I was doing my reallocation, I realized I'd put 250,000 and we actually had already reserved 300,000 for that. So I changed it to 300,000 and that's it. My mic's not working. I gotta go through all this again. Brings up. Is that better? That's working now? Okay. So the request for council decision coming Monday for set up the reserves. There are some changes to the reserve schedule just because of the amounts of funding that we have set aside before that were not reflected in the reserve schedule that was provided to council on the last legislative committee meeting. So this will be coming on Monday to get these reserves set up.
I think you brought up about the fire department and the 50,000 that we put into that reserve. So we put that 50,000 in to take a look at updating some of the breathing apparatus. We looked at a pump from one of the trucks that was just about going to fail. We were going to get a report on where we were at with our equipment stuff over there. That's your department, right, Bill? So is there a plan to get that report done, or is that what we're looking at? Because that was in October of last year that we put that 50,000 in there. No.
It was October 2018.
18, yeah. So we've not seen that report, and we were going to get an update where we were with our equipment, but we put that money in there because we were sort of being told that there was some deficiencies in some of the equipment, and one of our pumper trucks was about to fail, the pumping and stuff, so you're new since then, like I know it wasn't, you weren't a director then. So maybe we'll let that go to the next meeting and we'll find out a little more information about this. It's been a couple of years and hopefully that we're not sitting there with a bunch of equipment that's about to fail. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Casey, and we look forward to the report on at the council meeting. Is anybody Director Casey on that?
I do have a question on the fleet. You are making the change to 300,000.
I've already captured that.
You already captured.
It's not on that document, but I've already
Okay,
captured it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we have a letter from Mr. Clark.
Yeah, so this letter is from Ryan and Tracy Clark. They are the individuals who made an offer through the page to purchase lot 2 over by the reservoir. Now they are making an offer to purchase half of lot 2 for $10,000 plus the cost of any associated subdivision. So I can read this letter in full if you would like, in the public record, but basically that's what they're saying. They're representing themselves. They're not using a realtor, and they would like to buy that half of that lot for $10,000 plus GST and the cost, and they'll look after the cost of subdivision.
Okay, so it's the same people, the same residents that were before, but now they're coming. They feel that if they maybe had one more counselor to vote, that maybe it would be in their favor. So does anybody have any comments on the letter? This time we won't be voting. This will not come up until the council meeting, but Councillor Brajak.
I spoke in opposition to this request to sell the lot at our last meeting, and specifically because we don't normally sell town assets that we don't have listed for sale. And I feel that the location for that particular lot would be in the best interest of the town to hang on to it for a number of years for the future. I did email to all of council pricing for lots that are current, or they were currently for sale, adjacent, just to the north of the aquatic center. So there's 4 lots there, and they are priced at $300,000 for 4 lots. They are serviced, but the intent, I think, to purchase the lots, if the town were to purchase the lots in the future, would be for parking for the various events, either at the aquatic center or the social center. Right now, there is a shortage of parking, and land around there is at a premium. I would still be opposed to selling any land that is near our facilities in that location, because I just feel that it would put us at a loss if we had to then go and purchase lots to recoup that land for parking.
Okay, well, I don't think we're going to get into a big debate at this. We know that the next council meeting, we're going to have this come up, and we're going to have another discussion. We're going to have another vote on it. I think after that, that would be it. If they didn't get what they want, they would not be able to bring it up again, would they? No. Okay, so before I go to Councillor Waters, if we could get a little information on what lots are worth in town too before then would be nice to know. So Councillor Waters.
And that's what I was going to bring up. The last residential lots that sold about a month ago, and they were the last ones that sold through a realtor for quite a long time, went for $24,000 in a more desirable residential area. So if you're looking at a residential lot, half a lot, so $12,000 on that. He's wanting, from what I can tell from the letter, he's wanting to improve his property, bring up the value of his property. It's half a lot. I don't know if it's going to impede the upkeep of the water tower for now, because I wasn't privy to that information when it was brought through the real estate company. But recent sales is $24,000 for a full serviced lot.
Okay. Thank you. So everybody, like I said, it'll be on our agenda at the next council meeting, and try to get as much information for your own purposes that you can. we will see how it goes there. Thank you, Paul. Next up is me. Wow, that was quick, eh? Right to me already. So we have received a letter from the Royal Canadian Legion, and on June the 14th, they're going to be having their Declaration Day, the field at the cemetery, Riverside Cemetery, in the Field of Honor there. So I've always been there. It's 1:45 start, and but I don't know for sure that I'm not going to be able to make it this year. So there I will be able to make it. So who's Deputy Mayor? That's why you're setting up here beside me. Yeah. Well, you can. When I decided I can't make it, you have to. So. Okay. But we will get back to him that we will have a representative there. So one way or the other, I probably will be able to make it. Just for the simple fact that I'll get shot if I don't. So it shouldn't. Okay. So that's what I have. And so next up, it's some discussion from councilors, our round table, some highlights of what you're hearing, and we'll go from there. So today we're going to start with Councilor Warwalla.
Just a couple of items. The first thing is I've had a few calls in regards to the playground being opened, and I do want to say I last time had some reservations about the playground being open, but from the calls that I got, people were very thankful. So I just want to share that because I had some concerns as to opening it, and I was one who spoke out at last meeting, and people have said, oh, we're so happy that it was opened and it's giving some opportunity. There is a lot of questions being opened up to me again about the next steps. Kids, they're really itching to see kids be able to have some sort of sports, and they're hoping that, you know, we obviously follow what we have to provincially, but that we don't go a lot farther than that. They would like to see those kids out there and doing a few more items. So right now, that was the main thing that I got calls about. And then also there was some calls wondering whether or not we were hearing any change from the province in regards to that some of the events might be allowed, because people are having some confusion when they hear that now events, you can have up to 50 people in an outside space. Then they're wondering whether that means an organized event in an outside space or physically 50 people in that space. So maybe I will ask Phil, I don't know if you have a bit of an update, just something I can take back, but people are asking if it's the same thing, having an event. So the specific question I got asked was, could I host a graduation at an outdoor spot? Because we would be out there, we could technically distance. So have you heard anything on that, Phil?
There are some town hall meetings that are going to be directly related to this in the next week that we'll be taking, myself and staff will be taking part in. So I'll be able to have better answers for you on that moving forward.
Okay, perfect. Because that was kind of a couple of people are wanting that clarification, but that's all I had this time.
Okay, I don't have much to report. The only thing I'd like a reminder for anyone who wants to participate, tomorrow the Chamber of Commerce is hosting a Zoom meeting with the guest speaker, Todd Hirsch from ATB. He's the Chief Financial Officer at ATB Financial, and it should be a good conversation, probably focused a lot around COVID and what the effects are economically for our province. That's about it. I haven't had any concerns other than people are asking what facilities are reopening, what town facilities are reopening.
Councilor Lemko.
Your Worship, a couple items. One was the article in the paper or in the journal regarding AHS requesting from Dr. Henshaw the for Vickerville, Century Park, and other care facilities for seniors, the ability to have staff work in numerous locations rather than isolated to their one place of work. And that's a concern of some of the residents that this was put into place to protect the most vulnerable. And now we're going to have those workers transferring from, I don't believe from what I've read that the decision has been made by Dr. Henshaw, but it's certainly an item that is a hot topic. And I don't know where we stand on that as a council and what we feel, and whether we have any control or any say in the matter regardless. So, another item was library conference. I was a webinar yesterday, or a town hall with Dr. Henshaw. And is there some feedback or?
Oh, you're good.
I'm good. It just sounds like
No.
someone's yelling at me. Okay. With Dr. Henshaw, Dr. Henshaw and Ministers Fur and Sandhu regarding the opening of phase 2 for libraries. And that would be around the June 19th. And they're preparing a document, a guidance document for the reopening. So what it'll look like for libraries across the province will be a sort of a checklist, a document that libraries can use or library boards can use to facilitate opening of the library. So the board will be meeting to discuss what that looks like for Vegreville and if we meet some of the criteria. Some of the questions, it was dealt, most of the libraries in the province were in there and asking questions. It would be about browsing, wearing a mask, washroom facilities, shared facilities with other, like let's say a rec center would have a library in it and how that would work. So our concern in Vegreville is that our libraries, our shelving is closer than six feet from one side to the other and how that would apply. So there's no mandate for libraries to open on the start of second phase. It's up to the individual libraries to make that determination on their own. So we'll be looking at that. And curbside pickup is working quite well. So with that, those are my 2 items that I had.
Thank you very much. Councillor Waters.
Okay, I don't have much, just observing the nicer, brighter, sunnier days. It's great, and people are doing their job of social distancing, so it's nice to see in the parks, on the walking trails, on the playgrounds. Kind of expected there to be more children utilizing the playgrounds, but I think people are still being careful, which is good. They're not overrun, so that's good to see, and I just want to applaud our residents for taking the necessary precautions.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riddick.
I also had a few phone calls from family members that are at Century Park prior to the news article. So I've actually had quite extensive conversations that raised concern of the type that we'd had previously. And again, as council, we have a limited scope in terms of how we advocate and how we would be approaching this issue. I guess my concern is that if we're a rural community, and it seems rather in poor taste that the story came out at the end of Rural Health Professionals Week and the beginning of Seniors Week, that in a rural community that we are, I don't know that it's been approved by Dr. Henshaw, but that facility has not been adhering to the recommendations that were put in place for the entire province. And I would think that after a lifetime of hard work and dedicated devotion to this community, that once they retire, that citizens should be allowed to age in their own community in a place that is both respectful and providing the appropriate care. What I heard from some of the family members is concerning, particularly given that we have had some very positive stories of seniors being able to receive caring, compassionate care in their community at a time when they're really isolated. So there's a really big concern that not only is COVID amplifying the concerns, and I think that as municipal government, we've seen that ourselves. If there's a crack, sometimes the pressure that COVID is putting onto systems that are potentially not working at their best, it's making it more challenging. And there were some family members that have had their family members pass or move during this time frame, and they weren't disappointed that they didn't have to put their family member back in that facility. And again, I guess I would be concerned that as a community, we're being represented that way in the media. And secondly, that we're also not able to, in a rural community, expect that our seniors would be treated with the same kind of care and attention. Even the audit that was conducted, because there was some concerns brought forward at the previous Health Advisory Council meeting. Some of the concerns that were levied at that meeting, again, I'm just concerned, and I'm not sure what we can do about that, but I think it might be appropriate for us to elevate that concern. I did encourage the family members to contact their MLA and the appropriate people and protect people in sorry, the office, it's PPIC, I think is what the acronym is, to make sure that their concerns are heard by the appropriate authorities. But there is another part for us as municipal leaders that we need to protect our residents in rural communities. And it's been very obvious that we've done a great job, and I am concerned. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4 phone calls about that.
Well, I'm hoping you're telling these residents to get a hold of Alberta Health.
I did.
Because we, in the past, I know personally, I've got a hold of Alberta Health. We had a lot of reports after the privatization took over there. And so Alberta Health went in and did their inspections, and they gave a couple of recommendations there. I mean, I've heard back from some of those same residents that Alberta Health announces their inspection dates. They give them a week, and then they end up following the Alberta Health people around, so the staff's not allowed to say anything. But as a municipality, all we can do is keep reporting. We have no legal means to hold that private company to any type of anything. All we can do is get a hold of the province, and hopefully the province will step in and do something about it. I mean, so please encourage those families, get a hold of Alberta Health about the conditions that their loved ones are living with right now. So
I have encouraged them to contact the challenges, of course, and of course you can understand this. If your loved one is in compromised condition and being cared for, and you cannot enter the facility or be a part of evaluating how things are proceeding, you're trusting somebody that you're criticizing to be able to continue providing that level of care. And these are often people that are dementia and on the Alzheimer's spectrum. So the people that called me were very concerned, and it was after that I read the newspaper article. And I guess I've encouraged them to contact. It is, again, as a rural community, ensuring that our citizens have a right to age in place in their own community is paramount. I know that there are people that are now happier driving 2 hours away, which is the antithesis of what we would want. We want to encourage people to be able to continue living in their community close to their families. So I have encouraged them, but I would also say that if we have an opportunity to be able to elevate that concern, that we do that. On that vein, the next question I had was from the local Tim Hortons. So the announcement was made that distribution of masks will be through local, fast food restaurants. So what that means locally is that our local business owner contacted me to see if there's any support potentially from the local government, because they've been told that they need to process and package these masks in the order of, I think June 8th is the timeline that they need to have this all ready for. And so 17 cases times 2,000 masks. I'll let those mathy people in the room do the math there, 34,000 masks in short order, as well as a second delivery that all need to be packaged safely, securely, and without any compensation. So I'm not sure if anybody else has heard any questions about this or what this looks like. So her question is if there's any way that local government can help support this to ensure that the community members receive these safely. I don't know if that's something that we want to participate in or how we approach that. So I've got an email here that I'll forward on to administration.
Yeah, for sure. Like when they put their name forward to be the local participant, did they not understand that?
I don't think it was a volunteer.
Well, because I know some AMWs have it, and
I think it was determined for them. So I don't know that it was necessarily, yeah, my understanding is that it was, this is how this will be delivered, and this is how you will do it, and this is when you'll do it. And as it stands right now with the additional cleaning precautions and restrictions with staffing and making sure that everybody is healthy enough to be at work, because there's also the opportunity there where somebody might demonstrate any kind of symptoms, they need to self-isolate. So it's just, it's proven to be quite challenging to be able to meet that timeline and that guideline. And it wasn't a volunteer opportunity. I'm not sure that the A&W locally is one of the distribution sites.
No, they're not. They picked, the way I understood it is that the parent companies are the ones that applied to do it, and they are passing it down. And so different municipalities having two, they would decide between the parent companies who would get it. I don't even know how they're going to police it, to tell you the truth. Every Albertan's allowed to get 4. So what, they're going to write you down every time you go through the drive-through? Yeah, they're not really good masks, by the way. They're not any type of, they're just masks that the province couldn't get rid of,
So I don't know what our answer will be, but I said that I would bring this forward here, and we can maybe have a further conversation with administration, what they think that might look like. And then the final thing is there was an announcement yesterday of quicker delivery of the gas tax. So FCM has been advocating for emergency funding for municipalities to be able to cover some of the losses that are being experienced across the country with loss of revenue, closure of facilities, layoff of staff, as well as making sure that we're continuing to provide safe, essential services. So part of that is encouraging municipal projects and capital projects to be done in this building season. So the federal gas tax, this isn't new money, but rather than waiting for November for it to get streamed into the next budget cycle, they're hoping that this will be out quickly. So that was announced yesterday. So I look forward to seeing that potentially support some of our projects that we've already committed to for this year and be able to get those over the finish line as quickly as we can.
yeah, it was kind of funny. It looked like he was going to do something for municipalities, but all it was a relaunch of the money that's already been promised. It's just going to come a little bit early, but it is what it is.
Well, there's been some pushback from some of the federal elected officials that they feel the provinces should be coming to the table. And that has been part of the conversation, is that now isn't the time to be fighting about who's responsible for municipalities, that whether you're a Two Hills or a Toronto, you're still facing some really immediate pressing financial burdens, and we need some help. And fighting about who's responsible, it just means that municipalities are going to have things slip. And now isn't the time to stop being safe. So.
And ultimately, municipalities are responsible for their own financial well-being. So no matter what, I mean, I know the provinces, they don't have any more money. The feds say that they'll have a lot more money if the provinces throw more money. But as a municipal government, we're ultimately responsible for the well-being financially of this municipality. So those are decisions that we make. I heard Mayor Iverson yesterday saying it's like being at the little kids' table. Well, because we know already those large cities and the funding that comes out of the feds and the province where it ends up, it doesn't end up in the two hills or the Vegavilles of this province. So we just keep on doing what we need to look after ourselves. Thank you.
Gas tax is one that helps all of us.
Eventually, someone's going to pay it back, but this deficit. But Councilor Barry.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of good news. For a
Good.
change. You'll know down at the Pasanka Park or the park down there, there's a monument that was put there by the Ukrainian, I've lost it now, Congress, I believe it is. And a chap there, Raymond Schrick, is voluntarily refurbishing it, restoring it. He's cleaning it all up. He's doing a great job on it. He was 28 years ago, one of the original people on the committee that proposed putting it there. It's that little plaque of the, it's almost like a glass image of the Ukrainian pioneers. So I think it's, I thanked him on behalf of council the other day. I thought that it was very nice to see him doing that. And Len Bullock has got the newspaper down there to do a quick story on it. So hopefully we'll see that come out. I think anything that helps beautify the park there and make it, keep restoring things is nice. And the other one of greater concern and interest to me is we have finally reached the point where we can say that the Vegreville corn maze is going to take place. I would like to give thank you to the Nutrient Ag Solutions of Vegreville, who supplied the corn seed and the planter and staff to come out and seed it for us. And Rocky Mountain Equipment gave us the tractor because antique tractors aren't quite capable of pulling very modern, sophisticated equipment. And we got the bugs out of it and they got it entirely seeded. And I need to give one more little shout out to Compression Small Engines, a new group that have doing small engine repairs in town here. My rototiller decided it didn't want to keep going about the time I wanted to try and do the pumpkin patch and et cetera. And he fixed her up and got it running for me. Thank goodness, or I wouldn't have been able to get it done. So we've now added the sunflower, probably about 600 plants and around 220 pumpkins are now seeded. And we're waiting for things to start to grow out there. Len and I have put up a Facebook page, and in less than a week, we've now surpassed 10,000 views, and we have, we're approaching 500 followers. And that is like really moving fast. And the interesting thing is the last I looked at it, we had some 200 and some Vegreville type people that have put there, and we had over 100 Edmontonians that are following us. And we've got them from Cold Lake to Calgary that are posting, and particularly some families around Vegreville here that are saying that they're excited to see this come. So if everything goes well this fall, I think that this will be something that can help lift community spirit. And we'll still be looking for other partners as we go along on this to bring the community together and get families out there and have a good economical fun time. So that's all I have to say right now. I'm really excited about this, and we'll see it.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Barry. I've had to bring up a couple of conversations I've had this week. Well, one this week, one about 4 months ago. Well, just before one longer than that, I guess, before it started snowing in October. It's regarding the swamp spruce at the edge of town with a welcome to Vegreville on the west end. You guys ever notice that blue spruce that's in that sign? Two people that drive by it every day are really bothered by how ugly it is. I went and looked at it the other day. It is fairly ugly for sure. On the west end of town. So anyway, so if you get a chance, you drive by, there's it's called a swamp spruce. So, just sort of split, it's just laying on the ground sort of. It is really ugly, but we'll see what you guys think of it. And two complaints about the old school diner sign. And I know there's going to be letters coming from both those people. So people are, it doesn't fall into our bylaw, and people can't see around, so they nudge out. And of course, it's not where it's supposed to be. So we'll figure that out. That's all I have I've had nobody under the age of 12 come up to my house and thank me for opening the parks this week, but hopefully that'll continue. So we'll go around here to director's highlights. So we'll start with you, Phil.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick department updates. The FCSS department, so the Sizzlin' Summer program is moving forward. As per the AHS guidelines, they'll have 8 children and per session with 2 instructors. The 8 children will spend the entire week together. They're investigating the availability of a second cohort class because of the increased demand. So we have a couple of staff working hard at developing programs that are going to keep the kids social distancing as much as possible, and still following all the guidelines. Fireworks for Canada Day. We're talking with the Beg Ag Society. We've got preliminary okay from the president to host the fireworks there, because the Elks Kinsman Park, where we normally have them on Canada Day, feasibly we just can't do that. So we're looking at having it where the fairgrounds would have their fireworks on Canada Day, and we're developing a plan to keep people social distance, and possibly looking at donation for entry for the food bank or for Prairie Tales. So I got the fire department working on that with us. The Visitor Information Center, just so everyone is aware, on Monday, there'll be an amendment to the fees and charges bylaw Schedule J, which is firewood. We'll be adding the cost. We'll be selling firewood now instead of giving it away for free, recouping some of the costs for the town to provide that firewood. And the firewood's going to be locked up now to stop theft of the firewood. So a large bundle of firewood will be $8 and a small bundle will be $6. So that'll be coming on Monday. I don't know if everybody's heard, but this Saturday there'll be an antique car parade. It's put on by the Iron Runners Car Club in conjunction with the museum, FCSS, and Tourism and Culture, and it's to celebrate Seniors Week. It's this Saturday at 1 p.m. They will start at the museum. There'll be between 10 and 15 vehicles at this point. They're going to take a reverse route of the Lights of Hope parade, and they will end at the Egg Park. They'll be passing all the seniors complexes. They're going to follow the same rules as the Lights of Hope parade. People will be able to view from their homes and yard only. The local fire department is going to pilot the parade for them. We've spoken with the police and we've secured the route. Would council like to be involved in that? You're not around Saturday, you said? Or this Saturday? Or is that another Saturday? If any council would like to be involved, you can speak to me afterwards and we could arrange. The lead vehicle behind the RCMP actually might be an old police car. So if your worship wants to be in the back of the police car waving, it's up to you.
Let's not steal their thunder. If we show up, we'll be at the back of the parade.
So if anybody wants to ride in any of the antique cars, just to get a hold of me, and we'll coordinate that with Bill Smolik. 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. Should last about 45 minutes, the parade. I don't know if anybody is aware, but the large signboard on the west end of town by the Vegreville Composite High School. Took a massive hit on Sunday night in the tornado winds that we had. Three of the large posts have broken, like completely severed at the ground. We had Vantage come in and shore it up temporarily. For safety reasons, we're going to take it down and have it removed until we can figure out a plan for that. Preliminary costs are going to be expensive to repair it. So this will tie into wayfinding discussion. I did meet with Tom, Anya, Caleb, and Andrea. We're starting to move forward with development of an overall concept plan based on what was given to us before. A couple of years ago that a plan was developed, or a preliminary concept anyway, and what's transpired out of that is that the design of the signs, what we'd like to see, where they're going to go. The company that did the report for us, it's quite extensive and expensive to move forward with that. So between the five of us, we are developing a plan and looking at working with some other communities on what they did to try and save money, especially on design costs. We're sourcing out local production of the signs rather than going to out of town, so we can support a couple of our local businesses in town. We're also incorporating in the wayfinding, getting people off the highway and into Vegreville. It's one thing to have wayfinding in the town, but we did get a lot of discussion because with Tom in our group in our meeting about getting people off the highway into Vegreville. So we've done some research and we've got some great options that might be available for council to look at. And finally, the design, so that we're ensuring consistency in the branding and what it's going to look like, so that it's going to meet our branding goals for years to come. And we will be incorporating now the large signboard into the plan as well. So I'm hoping within let's say a couple more ledge meetings, we'll have some more concrete ideas for you, because we are doing it in-house rather than sourcing it out to a consultant. It does take time, but we are moving forward and coming up with ideas and trying to get it put into a plan so that it's easily understandable by everybody. That's all I have for this at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Rudy.
So I know we have spoken about the wayfinding a couple of times, and I had sent on the report that was prepared quite a while ago. And there are different portions of it with the idea that it would be staged. And of course, the graphic design is always a key component to make sure that it's clear and easily followable, which is why we had asked the developer of that report at that time that there be different portions so that you could stage it. I guess tornadoes, pandemics sometimes facilitate fast moving in a project. So that's good news, bad news, I guess. So I wonder if when you bring it back to us, you would have it staged out. Is that kind of what you were talking about in stages? Are you thinking that, because when we'd originally done that report with the consultant, we'd asked that it be staged so that you could take portions of it, and there are a couple different community examples in there that we could emulate. Is that your intention, that you would bring it back that way?
Yes, so what we want to come up with is the final design schematic, what it's going to look like, colors, the branding. Then there's 5 stages in terms of how we would put all these signs in place. Currently in what we're looking at in the plan is close to 60 signs. And they range everything from primary directional signs, so they're larger signboards when you're coming into our community from different directions. And what are we focusing on? Like, is it just 16A? Are we looking at 857 coming into town because we are bringing people in from those directions too? Those primary directional signs are larger, so they're pointing to major attractions. And then as we get people traveling towards in that direction, then we have smaller signs that are more secondary focused, so maybe to specific things. For instance, on Highway 16, you wouldn't put, utilize your primary signboard to have parking downtown. You would have something to historic downtown. Then as you get closer to the historic downtown, then you have things like town hall, parking, going in these different directions. So there are a lot of signs. And again, now it's focusing on what is going to be initially our biggest bang for our buck. And it will be up to 5 stages. Again, that'll be in the report, and depending on how fast council wants to move with the project. But the biggest thing right now is getting that sign designed exactly how we want it, the branding, and finishing the overall plan. Of course, we really want to source. We have 2 places locally that potentially could provide the signs for us. So as opposed to the original plan was to source it out to a company. So I would feel much better if we were investing in our local businesses with these signboards. So.
This may have been captured in your conversations, but we talked about this at economic development last time that, for example, last year when there was the spill on the highway and when Highway 16 was closed, the actual busyness of businesses downtown. So we actually asked some of our board members to quantify what that actual change was year over year that day as compared to the days before and afterwards. So maybe economic development has that, but just as what the accidental spill on the highway meant in increased traffic and what that meant for businesses downtown, to be able to show what it looks like. I mean, obviously that's a disaster, which is a little different than intentional signing, but in that vein, what kind of impact there is when there's a change in traffic flow to businesses. So they were gathering that information so they could quantify that.
Okay, I just have a couple that I think will fall to Phil on this. So one in regards to the antique car parade this weekend. I thought I'd bring this up now just because there isn't as much time. If it is possible, I would strongly suggest that it be live streamed. People are really looking at things right now and they're watching a lot of live streaming. It should definitely, if we want it in 2 locations, that's fine. But it should definitely be live streamed on our Tourism Explore Vegreville page. That would be another good kickstart, and those pick up a lot of data and keep going. So, and I think then also it allows us to do follow-up items, which is reminding everyone again that Vegreville hasn't stopped, that it continues to, move forward. And it's a good messaging that, we keep reaching out, and it's a good way to end Seniors Week. So that would be one. The second one, I guess, is within your department, but I also kind of wanted to raise it with Councillor Barry as well. I think it would be a good idea if we put the corn maze as well on the agenda for next week's tourism meeting. The reason being is it was one of the items that was highlighted originally in the top 20 and 20. And I think we have an opportunity to do something really cool. We could discuss the possibility of doing a campaign that would follow the corn maze. It would be an ability to keep doing updates to the public on the tourism page as it grows. There could be an initial kickoff, a kickoff video that maybe would interview a couple of you guys that had done some work on it, maybe flash through a couple of the logos of the people who, the companies that helped us from the beginning. And it could be like, this is a kickoff, and then you could follow it up with follow-up. So if you think that's all right, we could add that to our agenda for next week, just to promote the corn maze a little bit. So that was one of my other items. And then the other thing was just in regards to the wayfinding, just the branding, to keep branding really important. That's every tourism meeting that we go on or anything. Doesn't suggest that you shouldn't branch out and diversify, but they also suggest that you embrace what you do have. Obviously, we have a good logo, we have the egg logo. So just keeping that in mind, that we want to keep some consistency in with that branding. I'm sure you guys have been looking at that, but that just seems to be the message that I hear throughout, that there shouldn't be one item that we receive. If that's our thing, our letterhead should have that, our swag should have that. It should be, without a doubt, every single item should be following that branding. So is what the message we hear. So just something to share there. And hopefully, if that's all right, Councilor Barry, maybe we can put that on. Thank you.
I'd be completely willing to come there. I'm certain that Len would be completely willing to come there. On our own Facebook page that we've put up now, that's Vegreville Corn Maze, we do have a series from plowing it last fall, disking it this spring, to seeding it, to end of stage 1. And we will continue to post all summer as we put the design into it
Sure.
and move through. But absolutely, any additional support and advertising that we can get, it's definitely benefit. And we do want to work closely with tourism.
Perfect. So
We-
what we'll
we
do
want
is
to
make
be
sure you get
a
an
partnership.
invite.
We want a partnership.
Great. So we'll make sure you get an invite to pop in at least
Sure.
and have a little chat with that.
Yep.
And maybe we can even use some of your footage and put it together, but it could be a
Yep.
really nice video or something. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Casey.
Is this thing working now? Okay. Do we need to talk louder? That was better? Okay. So I had intended to bring my quarterly review for March here today, but because of COVID-19, not that that's delayed me in doing it, I'm trying to figure out what the impact has been of COVID-19, so I intend to bring that to the next legislative committee meeting. Preliminary revenue numbers that I've worked on right now, we're down about $157,000 in revenue. Most of that is from recreation. About $90,000 of that is from recreation. Some of it is from stuff that isn't related to COVID-19, such as the reduction in police fines that we get versus what we were getting last year. That's about a $20,000 hit so far. But I'll have more information for that at the next ledge meeting. Our finance manager, as a result of COVID-19, was terminated because she could not work comfortably in our office, and it was between a mutual agreement between her and I, our interim manager, that she wouldn't continue. So I've taken on those duties right now. Shane and I will work through that for the time being, and we'll see how it goes before I look for anybody else to fill that role. Our utility clerk is going on maternity leave on the 22nd of June. We have hired an interim replacement. She starts on June 15th, so she'll have a week with Taylor to get trained, and then Shane has agreed to continue the training because Shane was the former utilities clerk, so to continue the training until the new clerk is up to speed. And that's it for me, sir.
Lots of challenges right now.
Yeah. We'll get through them all.
Well, don't worry, tax time is quite a ways away.
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Rudy.
So I I'm curious to see the breakdown of what the impact has been to the municipality for COVID, because I think there's a lot of anticipated as well as unanticipated pressures that we might face in terms of our revenue as well as our expenses. So if there's anything that you need some assistance with, I know that FCM has prepared maybe a tip sheet for all the items to consider. So even the policing fines, one of those things that you wouldn't necessarily consider, but definitely an impact with less people traveling. That is a huge impact for us, extra $20,000 just off of one particular item. And a lot of these things, we don't know how long it's going to continue for. So I don't.
Mine is the province took that part. That's what he was bringing up.
Well,
it wasn't the COVID as much as what the province decided they needed an extra percentage of what we used to.
Well, and I guess to that point too, there was a further article in terms of the policing impacts in Nova Scotia. So I'm not sure that you may have read that. The councillor that's from Colchester County, where the shooting was, for example, was talking about the impact of rural policing and what they're paying for and what they're actually receiving, which is kind of an interesting follow-up of our last conversation with Corporal Drinkwater, and maybe dovetails into this consideration. So I'm curious to see what's going to come out, and actually not concerned, but just I'm very interested to see what it means for us, because I think the impacts will be long-term. And even as businesses start to reopen, I have already spoken to some that have no intentions of reopening at all, and others that are really struggling. I think in general, people are feeling very positive, but I know that there are some business owners that have really felt like they're too old to play this game anymore. They're not willing to adapt to this. And so they're closing, not necessarily because they couldn't reopen financially, but they just don't have the gumption anymore. In that vein, I don't know what that'll mean for our finances as we move forward with tax collection. So the other part I would be curious about, when we first had this conversation about consideration of taxes, is if we can have, I don't know, a game plan or an idea of where we are in terms of collection, like if we've reached a threshold of 50% or how many more we still have to go, just to keep an eye on things.
Well, we should know something by about the 10th of July for sure. And I guess with our revenues going down, and especially in our rec facilities, but then our expenses have too. So, I mean, it'll balance in there somewhat, but look forward to getting an update on that, what's really cost us. So, okay, CAO.
Good afternoon. The first item I have is the social media policy. GOV 1006 is currently under review by the senior leadership team. I just wanted to point out that the ZAG creative proposal for economic development social media campaign may contradict our current policy. So we will work on a revision, okay? And we are anyway, but just so you're aware, okay? Question for Talk of the Town. Does council wish to continue with the Talk of the Town program?
Well, myself personally, I think, I mean, lately I've been doing the COVID updates, but I do think that each department does get a chance to let the community know what they're doing, what's coming up. I like the fact that some counselors, or each counselor gets to go and speak of what boards are on and what they're doing. I think it's worthwhile program myself personally to keep going. I mean, there's different times of the year, there's different things going on in each department in town that it's nice they can get their point across. And I do believe that counselors like going to speak about the boards they're and the work they're doing too. So all in favor of not the mayor going every Monday for 2 months. That'll be good. So how's everybody? You want to keep rolling with it? Okay, so I guess we will.
Okay, good. I participated in a webinar through the Local Government Administrators Association regarding the federal stimulus funding. However, the provincial grant directors that were part of the presenters for the webinar were not authorized to discuss the details of the grant criteria for the upcoming stimulus funding programs. They know that the programs have been announced, but they can't say what the details are. So stay tuned. So, and then Councillor Rudick has mentioned the federal gas tax fund. So our payment will come in June. The announcement came through yesterday. The live streaming statistics. I can send this out later for you, but just so you know, council meetings. We've had 4 live streamed council meetings, April 15, 27, May 11, and 25. The number of viewers, 205, 269, 56, and 102. And then our legislative committee meetings, we had April 21st, May 5th, and May 19. And we had 59, 39, and 30 respectively. So if there's some other data in here, I'll forward it off to you. But just initially, there was a large uptake on this where we had over 200 viewers for our council meetings, not as many for the legislative committee meetings, but they are being watched.
We're really flattening the curve here. So,
So that's my report.
okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, there's not, go, Councillor Warwick.
Just something interesting about that. I've had a few people reach out to me about us live streaming, and I can see where they would think the big thing to tune into is the council meeting because they want to see it sounds more official. However, someone said to me, well, you guys don't, you made this decision. Somebody said on a specific topic, you made this decision without a lot of debate. And I was very interested when I picked up the phone and called them back, and they were very unaware how much debate and the fact that our legislative meetings are actually the ones where you would hear us talk about items and go through the items, that by the time they often come to the council meetings, they've been discussed 3, 4, 5 times, and very few things that ever come to our council meetings for actual discussion and for vote are just voted on. Like there's, so it is kind of interesting. I think if more people recognize that the information was more so discussed at Ledge, it would flip around, but that might even be a topic at one point for a talk of the town, is to let people know that, a council meeting is your more formal vote. It goes through a lot quicker. A lot of people were shocked when I've stated to them that it is nothing for us to sit for 5 hours for a legislative meeting. And people had no idea that that amount of time or discussion goes in. So it's just kind of an interesting thing that I found out since we've been live streaming, and a couple of people just reached out to ask me questions. So that's all.
Yeah, and I always try to tell people too that our ledge meetings is the working meetings. I mean, the rest of the formal stuff, that the votes and stuff that gets passed at council meetings. Although we've had a few council meetings where we didn't know the outcomes. And I mean, what I found about this council is that when we work on something in ledge, that we usually need more information for a couple more meetings that will get discussed before we're ready to make some decisions. And it's not always unanimous. So that's the way it is. Okay, we'll see no more business of council. I would take a motion to go into closed session for intergovernmental relations. Thank you, Councillor Barry.